Blessings everybody, welcome back. I initially was going to record this transmission and then the Pleiadians hijacked the session and decided to take it, in another direction, and that happens. So I went along with that, and that probably is the video that you have seen, the previous video that I uploaded. So this is the one that I initially wanted to channel. I feel there is, personally I have been sort of moving through a lesson about the conditioning of needing to do something. So for the past week or so, or maybe 2 weeks, I don't know, I felt very much like I didn't want to do anything. Like I just wanted to be in nature, I just wanted to go to the beach every day, to do some surfing, to move my body. I'm doing my yoga practice every day, I'm doing my breathwork every day, and then time just flies and the day's just gone. And I just enjoy so much being by myself at home and not really feeling like I have something that I need to do. And then one day it suddenly just hit me, this wave of energy just hit me, and I felt so guilty for not doing anything. And in meditation a couple of days ago, that was when the message came to me that it's a lesson about how we have been so programmed. The need to do something, even if we don't feel like, for the sake of feeling like we have accomplished something every day. And then if we don't do anything, it's like, well, I just wasted my day. But what I have realized as I move through this experience and this lesson is that it is such a heavily conditioned belief or a way of life that we're constantly doing, and then it just becomes almost like an addiction to doing something. And then we fear when we're alone, we fear the silence in between the nothingness of doing nothing, and then our brain is trying to cling onto something. And it doesn't help when social media, all these platforms and apps are created so that they want us to stay on the app for as long as possible. They want people to use the apps for as long as possible, and that is where the addiction comes in. But when we talk about this journey of coming home to ourselves and the liberation and the freedom, we don't find that in the space of constantly doing something or constantly scrolling and being busy. Because when we're busy, in quotation marks, because sometimes we just look like we're busy, but we're actually not doing anything. Again, because for the sake of it, we want to feel busy. Because of the fear of not being busy, the fear of silence, the fear of being alone, the fear of having nothing to do. When we are constantly doing something, we don't have the time and space and the opportunity to really go inward. Yes, surfing has really taught me so much about life, and the ocean has really. She has imparted so much knowledge to me through having fun surfing, obviously, getting wiped out and catching waves and falling and learning and feeling frustrated and all these things. And what I really took away from that, before I go into the cards that I've pulled, what I really took away from that is almost like, so how would works usually in the ocean is that before, when a set comes, a set is when, you know, waves come, and then there is a lull period where, you know, it's calm and then there are no waves, and then the set comes again where the waves come, and then you're able to ride it. When a set comes, there are multiple waves that come. There is almost a frequency to it, and that dictates how much energy is beneath the ocean, how much energy the wave holds. Usually when the first wave comes in a set, it's not big. It comes in a little bump and then indicates that, okay, something is coming. And then a bigger one comes, and then maybe a massive one comes, and then stillness. And then the whole cycle repeats itself. So when that initial waves come, and you pedal for it and you try to catch it, but there is just not enough momentum. There's not enough energy in that wave. And so if there isn't, then that energy cannot be transferred to the board, cannot be transferred to the person on the board, the surfer, and therefore we can't catch the wave. And that is kind of like life. When you put in your energy to, you know, act on certain things that perhaps you have created in your mind because of the fear of not doing anything, or the little distractions that come along, and then when you are meant to act on something else that is more aligned, you don't have the energy anymore. So in my own journey, that's kind of what I have learned as well, is that when you receive a message, you don't always have to act on it right now. In that aspect, there is almost a fear of missing the boat. But really, if that is for you, you won't miss it. The next one will come next. So it's that relationship also, the cultivation of trust, trusting that it will always come back to you. And that is something on another topic about money, about spending money or investing in something. There is so much fear of money not returning, and therefore many of us tend to hoard, and that has been my conditioning as well, that I have to save, and no matter how much I saved, I just don't feel abundant at all. Even if someone else can have less than me, but they feel so much more abundant because they have that relationship with money where they just trust that it will come back. But that whole money thing is another topic that I feel like that is for another day. So trusting that it will come if it's for you. And it will. It's a cycle. Life is a cycle. It's gonna come and it's gonna go, and it's gonna come again and it's gonna go. So if we treat it as such, then there is no such thing as I'm gonna miss the boat, because if you truly missed it, then it's not for you anyway. So there is always a time and a space for something. And I'm learning to really sit with the messages that come. And then when I feel that impulse, that now is time, then I act on it. And it's just so much more efficient. I get things done so quickly, and it's just a breeze. It almost feels like I'm riding the wave of that energy. And that's why I say surfing has really taught me, because when you feel the wave, that energy transference from the wave to the board, to me, that feeling is almost like an impulse. It's like a push. And this video is literally, I felt a push from the universe or your guides, whoever, the team that is here wanting to transmit this to you right here, right now. I felt it from them. And in the past, I had this whole system where I want to do videos every week and I want to post every week. And obviously in the beginning, consistency and, you know, stuff like that of posting, that was what I adhered to. But now I'm starting to learn that it's okay. I'm starting to release that it's okay to not post every week, that it's gonna be a better use of my energy if I listen to this rhythm, because every one of us have this inner rhythm, and this rhythm is also in sync with the cyclical nature and also the astrological cycles. So when we are in tune with this rhythm, which is different for everybody, then you get to use your time and your energy so much more efficiently. And there's almost no such thing as I do not have time. The reason why people don't have time for certain things is because they are spending their energy on things that are not aligned with them. So that being said, let's now open the cards that I've pulled. I pulled 4 cards, and I just wanna look at this and see if there is a specific message that's coming through. If not, I'm just gonna continue rambling. So this card from the Gateway of Light activation is the one that I pulled is the Gaia Gateway activation, learning experiences, wisdom transmission, and earth intelligence, which I felt, can you see this? Which I felt was a very, very, big part of today's transmission. I felt that it was really Gaia that wanted me to talk about this rhythm, this need to do something, which, that it makes sense now why I started off with, sharing a little bit of my experience in terms of the need to do something, and then Mama Gaia teaching me about the rhythms, the inner rhythm. So this is what is coming through from the wisdom of Gaia, from the consciousness of Gaia. And she wants you to connect more with her, which means connecting more with nature. I want to share a little bit of my personal experience. I feel like, this transmission is going to be a mix of me sharing my personal experience and the message that wants to come through the cards. But that's the thing. It's interesting to feel how, when I was being guided to do this video, the reason why I held back a little bit was because I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I just knew that there's something that I want to share, but there's so many things that I want to share that I don't even know where to begin. And these cards did feel to me that it helps to categorize these things. So this card, the Gaia Gateway activation, the message that's coming through is about connection with nature. And the personal story that I want to share is how, ever since moving here to Bali, it's just crazy how the message that I received in a ceremony was her consciousness, the consciousness of Bali that was speaking to me. And really, when I talk about the consciousness of Bali, it's the land, it's the forest, it's the ocean, it's the mountain, which really is nature, it's Gaia herself. She told me that I'll be living here for a couple of years and that she will provide me with everything. And it's just so crazy to... I resisted that message for a long time, and then life just had to happen. Things just had to happen. Wipeouts just had to happen to clean and to clear the slate so that I can be redirected to this path, which I felt was a liberation for me. It was a redirection, and really the path that I would say a homecoming. So this whole theme of the wipeout and a cleaning of a slate, it feels like it's a little bit of an extension from my previous video. So if you haven't watched that, perhaps it's a sign to also receive that. Very interesting to observe that I do not have any survival skills at all. If I was thrown in nature, in a forest, or like in an island, and I needed to survive, I would die in maybe 3 days. Maybe I can find water, but I will die in just a couple of days. Because school just don't teach us. School just don't teach us. Yeah, we learn math, we learn all these, science, and which is useful, but I feel like as education advances into tertiary education and university, I often question, what's the point of learning advanced mathematics? Like, how many of us are really going to use that? Honestly, I don't even use and remember how to solve certain advanced mathematics problems. I don't even remember what they're called, to be honest. And even chemistry, like advanced chemistry. And it's funny that school don't teach us the practical things, that school don't teach us how to connect with nature. That coming from Singapore, where we don't have as much nature as here in Bali, and that we live in, what I see is that we live in like containers, we live in boxes, and then we're in another box, like a car being transported to school, which is another box. And then we go home in a car or a bus, which is another box, and back to our container. And that's just our whole life. Coming here and seeing the landscape and seeing how I would throw like papaya seed in my garden, and in the next few days, I would see a papaya tree growing. That is how crazy abundant and giving and nurturing Earth is. And she was right when she said that Bali or Gaia will provide me with everything I need. That was the moment when I realized that how can we not survive if we just had land and we just knew and were being taught how to plant our own fruits, how to plant our own vegetables, how to plant our own food. We need food to survive. We need water to survive. That's really it. This whole financial system and money thing, it's a lot to talk about in a video. So maybe when it feels right to do a video like that, I would. But if we strip it down to the basics, and we just have land, because land is not used for things that, to grow things or crops or certain things to be more profitable. If we had land and every one of us have this little, I guess, sanctuary, you can call it, and we know how to plant our own food, we won't starve, honestly. And that is all that we need to live. The whole idea of feeling fulfilled, feeling accomplished, all of this is programmed into us, because at the end of the day, you don't need all these things to feel fulfilled. You don't need to achieve anything. You, when you're connected to yourself, is self-fulfilling. It's self-fulfilling in itself. And if you've felt that before, then good for you. Tap into that energy more often. And that essence is found in nature. When you are out there in the ocean alone, when you are at the beach during sunrise, when it's all quiet, when you're in the forest alone, when you take a deep breath in, that fulfillment, that it's so hard to put into words, but you know how it feels, because I'm sure you have felt that before. That in itself is self-fulfilling. You don't need anything else really. Anything else, everything else is just a bonus, and somehow humans just make things more complicated. But we are stripping a lot of things down back to basics, and therefore a lot of things have to go. A lot of all these systems, whether it's individually, programs, and conditioning, they are deconstructing itself so that we come back to the simple things in life. So if you have the chance to go and connect with nature, because there is a very strong consciousness that is in nature, and she will teach you a lot if you are willing to listen, if you're willing to stop and just listen. So yeah, it was really funny when I was riding the bike with my friend and I saw a dragon fruit tree, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know a dragon fruit tree looks like this, or a plant. And he was like, are you serious? Where are you living in? And I was like, in Singapore. We don't learn these things and we don't see these things. We only see the fruit in the supermarket and we know what fruit it is, but if you throw me in a forest, I wouldn't know what to eat. I wouldn't know where to find it. And like I said, I would probably die in a day or two, because we're just not taught these things. And I feel like the new earth education has to be connected very, very closely to nature. We gotta learn from nature. We gotta spend more time outside instead of in the classroom. And yeah, that is going to be the new way of education. Let the elements teach the future generation instead of our human mind, which, yeah, it tends to be quite limited, even though it is very powerful. But let nature teach our future generation instead of the current systems that is trying to sort of push the population in a certain way. But there is clearly a more aligned way of doing these things. Okay. And then I'm being drawn to this other card that I have pulled from a separate deck. Geometric coherence. This is linked to the Gaia card because the reason why nature is healing is that there is geometric coherence. It's sacred geometry. When you hear the cicadas, when you hear, the insects in the forest, when you see the bees doing its thing, the sun rays, the sunlight, all of these things have a sacred geometry in it. And have you ever noticed that when you, let's say you go for like a vacation or like a backpacking trip or a tour and you visit these native communities? I remember I was in Vietnam, and I was in a region where it was really close to the borders of China, and there is a native tribe there, and I noticed and observed that the handmade goods that they made, the patterns were all a resemblance of sacred geometry. For sure, that when they observe, they've seen it. Therefore, they are able to recreate it into their crafts. And there's so many things in nature that has a sacred geometric pattern only if we are connected. Only if we give ourselves the chance and the opportunity and the space and the time to go and open our eyes and open our hearts to receive these knowledge in these patterns and these transmissions. So just like how, you know, a tornado is like a spiral and then the seashell is like a spiral, I'm sure you've seen it before. In nature, there is sacred geometry happening, and therefore the reason why it's so healing in nature is because there is a sacred geometric coherence that is just naturally abundant. I remember there was this one time I was doing a photo shoot at the beach, and it was during sunrise, and I might find some pictures and insert it here. There are literally I don't know what about it, I'm not a photography person, but the reflection of lights and the orbs, there was literally sacred geometries. You can see it right here. It's very, very apparent. And so that's why you're being called to go to nature and to connect more with nature, because it's not only healing for you individually, but also it's gonna have a lot of energetic transmission. It's going to transmit a lot of energy to you and assist you in your journey as well. So that is connected to the Gaia Gateway Activation card. I mean, all these cards are connected, but that one specifically was coming through. Deep Dive. This is the next card I'm feeling called to sort of decode. It's funny that one after another, it's bringing back to this whole Gaia theme, which when you look at this, when I looked at this, it reminded me of the ocean and water, the consciousness of water, which water holds memories. And what I received in my meditations often is that vision of the ocean and the water in the ocean eventually touching and connecting all land on earth, all the land on earth. And so when we work with water, whether it's energy work or when we consciously transmit an energy to water, it actually is a transmitter as well that transmits this energy and these codes to the other land masses. So you could be in, I don't know, New Zealand, I could be in Bali, and someone else could be in the United States or Canada or, I don't know, China, wherever. It doesn't matter where you are. When you work with water, it flows to the masses. It flows to the masses, especially when you work with, obviously, water that flows, as in naturally occurring bodies of water, whether it's a lake or usually it's the ocean. What I saw was like ocean, because the water just flows and it's unrestricted and it just goes where it needs to go. So deep dive, this card says deep dive into the ocean. It's a message to work with water, and you don't need to know how to work with it. Just the simple act of going for a dip, or whether you're feeling called to go learn free diving or scuba diving, or whether you're feeling called to a certain place to go snorkeling, or whether you're called to do a certain water sport or activity. It could be something that is, in quotation marks, unrelated to spiritual work. In fact, everything is spiritual. Like, you go water rafting is spiritual. Every experience in life is spiritual. So deep dive, listen to where you're being called to work with the consciousness of water. And when you connect with her, that is when she will teach you. So, was it in this video? Yes, it was in this video where I was talking about how surfing has imparted me with a lot of lessons in the beginning of this video. So this is full circle. And then the last card is Angel Light. These wings remind me of your guardian angels. Like, they're very present, and all of these gemstones remind me of like the chakra, and that nature is actually very abundant with all these fairies and elementals. And a lot of times when I'm taking photos of like a sun ray, the refraction almost shows like wings that's coming out. And it reminds me of a couple, I think it was in 2 photos that I took in nature. One in the mountains up here in Bali, and another one in New Zealand, in one of the South Island gardens. And I remember trying to take a photo of something, and the light rays, the light beams were just coming through, and then it refracted through the lens or whatever it is, and it created this angelic, almost like, yeah, an angelic being that was showing up on my photo. And it's just such a beautiful energy. It literally looks like this. I will try to find that photo and insert it here. I hope I remember. It reminds me of that ever-presence of beings in nature. And you can feel, not all spaces in nature feel good. I'm sure you've been to certain places and you're like, oh, this doesn't feel nice, and then you just feel like you want to leave. And that's because, yeah, it is what it is, that there are these differences in energy. And when you feel it is a very high vibrational space, at least 2 places that I've been to that showed this image, that showed this almost like a being-like thing that was on my photo, these places felt very high vibrational. So this message is sort of telling you that not all spaces in nature are high vibrational and that are aligned with your energetic makeup. The only way you will know is that when you go, you will feel it. A lot of portals in nature, and that these beings actually are working with you. They are working on you. They are working on your chakra. Most of us, our lower 3 chakras hold a lot of dense emotions and experiences from, our ancestors and also different lifetimes. That is and also programming, conditioning that's being held in the root and in the sacral chakra, and then also in the solar plexus. And so these 3 lower chakras usually needs a lot of work. And I am not excluded from this. Obviously, every one of us, we have work that we need to do. So that being in nature is going to help you with this work, with this clearance, and with this activation. And the last thing that's coming through that I want to share is that in my meditation today, I tapped into this sexual energy. And in the past, I would feel like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. I would feel like guilty and a little bit dirty for feeling this energy. But obviously, life had me working on these things and releasing these conditioning and embracing this energy that's coming through, because sexual energy really is life force energy and is source frequency. And sexual energy has been literally so demonized in a sense, where we are taught not to feel it in certain situations, that it's not appropriate in certain situations. And no, like sexual energy is life force energy, and that when you connect and embrace that energy, that is when you realize that every experience is sensual, every experience is sacred, everything obviously can make you feel this sensual feeling, because everything, especially nature, has so much life force energy. And so when It's like when I was in a previous video, I was talking about how eating a buttered toast made me feel so good. Like literally, it was orgasmic. It was as simple as just toast and butter. It's not even like French butter or anything. It's just, I don't even know what brand it was. I think, yeah, it's some Australian brand that I bought from the supermarket. And I'm not like super fussy with my butter, to be honest. So it's just simple. I just had it and I was like, oh my God, it's so freaking good. And then I had like the freshest avocado in the world and it was so good. And that energy is the same as when you have an orgasm during sex. And that feeling, that same feeling is the same feeling you get when you're in nature and you tap into that essence, that life force energy, and you feel it. And it's the same feeling that you get when you're meditating and you tap into that essence of life force. It's all the same. It is all the same. And when we start to notice that, when we start to embrace that, that is when, that is when life, I don't even have words for it, but fulfillment, self-fulfillment of life is not about achieving anything. It's this feeling that you get that however much money you make can't even get close to that. And I'm learning to also program this feeling into money, because money is not separate from the spiritual, evolution or the spiritual growth or the spiritual journey. A lot of people tend to separate that money is evil, and if you're spiritual then you shouldn't be like wanting money. And there almost is this separation. And when you realize that even money is life force energy, then start to clear the old conditionings and then program this sensual feeling into money. Like I always wondered, how come, I started to observe that people who are very in tune with their sensual energy usually manifest like almost instantly. And now it makes sense. Why. They're not afraid of feeling this energy. They're not suppressing it, and they are embracing it. They're enjoying it, and they're not seeing it as separate from anything else, from life, from spirituality. So it's interesting how this topic sort of flowed into this whole sensual energy thing, but really sensual energy is life force energy. And when you are able to tap into that, that is almost like one of the most important keys that will unlock something really important in your journey. So with that, it feels complete. I hope that this message resonated with you. Got a lot of comments from my previous video working with cards and doing a little bit of a different format of these videos, and you guys really loved it, so thank you so much for all the love. I feel like the previous video and this video is such a stark contrast of how I've been used to channeling, and then this is kind of like a little bit of a new thing where I'm still channeling, but I'm not, it feels like I'm working with cards, and then I'm also putting in a little bit of my own personal experience, my own stories. And I guess in this journey I've really loved it when people share their own journeys, because it helps me feel more connected to them. It helps me feel less alone. It almost also helps me feel that, this person who perhaps I have watched for so long and I'm learning from this person actually goes through the same thing as me, and that there is no separation, that I'm no different, and that it just feels more what's the word? I can't find the word. It just feels nice to know that, yeah, like people do feel these things, and that I am not alone. So you're definitely not alone, and I hope that this resonated with you. Feel free to let me know in the comments below anything that came up for you specifically, whatever you feel called to share. If you really like this kind of transmissions and my energy and my perspective, I guess, and would like to work with me deeper, then I do offer one-on-one sessions as well as mentorships. The links will be in the description box below, so check that out. Thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love.